Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com with another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news, and that's for the week ending February 13th, 2016. This is episode number 30 of the recap, and the first bit of news this week, and probably the biggest, is Black Desert Online is starting its closed beta phase 2 testing on February 18th, and that is this Thursday. The full game is launching on March 3rd, but the beta test begins on the 18th. The closed beta phase 2 keys for the game have been under huge demand, and we've already given away over 600 on MMOs.com, but we have yet another 600 keys to give away, so if you didn't get one just yet, tune in tomorrow for the MMOs.com podcast over at twitch.tv/MMOs.com tomorrow at 9 a.m. PST for a chance to get one. It's amazing how quickly these keys are going. There's a lot of demand and a lot of hype for Black Desert Online right now, at least for the closed beta. Remember though, the game will cost $30 at launch. Next up, some upbeat news from Wildstar regarding the state of the game, which basically highlighted some of the updates coming this year, namely Destination Arctera, which is a brand new max level zone with an epic storyline, and the second chapter of the Nexus Saga. Considering that we reported that Wildstar was expected to go to zero revenue by late 2016 from Daewoo Securities, as well as some negative stories about some of the developers that worked at Carbine, it's good to see some positive news coming from Wildstar for a change. It does mean there's definitely some hope for the game. In fact, since going free to play, Wildstar's revenue has increased, and is the highest it's ever been if you exclude the first quarter of the game's launch. Next up, a bit of news regarding Overwatch. After a short break, the Overwatch closed beta is back. Players in America and Europe can start playing the game already if they have a beta account. If you don't have a beta account, new invites are still being sent out regularly for access to the game. This next round of beta introduces a new progression system, new mode, new maps, and an option to play versus AI, as well as a whole bunch of balance changes. Still no official word on when Overwatch will be coming out. We do know it'll be before the end of spring, and that's all we got right now, just before the end of spring, so it's sometime in spring the game will be launching for realsies. Oh, and don't forget, the game will be buy to play at launch. Moving right along, we have some news from Neverwinter. Remember last week when we talked about the upcoming Maze Engine expansion pack, and I complained about the game's disparity between the PC version and console version? Yeah, it's getting a little bit narrower. The previous expansion, Underdark, finally hits Xbox One, and it did so about 2 months after its initial PC launch. There's quite a bit of delay already. They are hoping to make that delay much less going forward, but we'll find out how big the gap is between the Maze Engine launching on PC and when it launches on Xbox. But yeah, Underdark is finally live for Xbox One, so if you wanted to play on there, you finally can. Up next, some pretty big news for the folks that play EVE Online. CCP revealed the game's much debated skill trading feature this week, which, as you probably guessed, allow players to trade skills. For those unfamiliar with EVE's skill system, basically you gain skills by being AFK and training them. You just gain skills passively, so it kind of favors older veteran players who have gained a lot more skills over the years, but now those players and other players can start trading their skills, and there's diminishing returns, so players with lots of skills in the game get diminishing returns by purchasing skills from other players. So it's meant to help newer characters kind of catch up quicker to veteran players. And it's definitely a big change in the game. We'll see what players think about it soon. Up next, a new game this week, a game I haven't heard of up until now. Wincars Racer enters open beta after nearly 3 months in closed beta. Wincars, it sounds a bit like Wincars to me, which just sounds kind of silly. It's a free-to-play racing game with some MOBA-esque elements, only because each character has 3 different skills, such as being able to destroy their opponents, get wings and fly around, so it's meant to be a little more chaotic of a racing game, but expect the first look for it fairly soon. Up next, yet another new game. This time it's called BattlePlans. Not exactly an MMO, but it's still published by InMasters Entertainment, the same folks behind Terra. It's a tactical competitive strategy game, or RTS, for both PC and mobile. BattlePlans will be available on both mobile and PC starting in the spring, with the game's PC version beginning closed beta testing later this month. Based on the video we're seeing in the background, I'm not sure what to think. I mean, most of these mobile strategy games are kind of pay to win, so hopefully this isn't. But we'll find out when the game actually launches. I do like strategy games, so if they do strategy correctly, I'm sure it could be fun. Boosh, next up, a bit of news from an older game, a blast from the past per se. Anarchy Online opens a new region called The Wreck. The area is designed for players level 90 to 220 range, and is also part of the same content update that shows off the game's new rendering engine. So even though the game released originally back in 2001, it still looks quite sharp due to the new graphics engine. Speaking from Blast from the Past, we have Nine Dragons Awakens, which enters closed beta. I'm sure some of you guys are thinking, how is Nine Dragons possibly entering closed beta just now? The game's been out for quite some time, originally from Acclaim, just years and years ago, and then later went out to Games Campus, and they shut it down again, and now it's being relaunched through a company called Red Fox Games, which seems to be competing with Suba Games for the title of MMO Necromancer, as they'll be relaunching several other older games, including RF Online, as well as 12 Sky 2. So just bringing back these old dead games. But I'm curious to see how they'll do under new ownership. And the video in the background is just a CGI trailer. The actual gameplay looks quite a bit worse, because it is an older game. Next up, in some more recent game news, Gigantic, the upcoming MOBA from Motiga, is at risk. because the company just had another round of layoffs. On February 9th, the studio said they laid off a significant percentage of their staff. This is after previous layoffs in the past and other development issues, but the game did lift their NDA last week, so they are making progress towards release, but they are losing staff members quickly, it looks like, so there's probably some financial issues at work. Now, this isn't too surprising given that the studio started working on Gigantic back in 2010, so it's been 6 years about since they shipped the product, so they're obviously having some financial stress, but the game is very close to launch now, so we'll see what happens. Up next, a bit of news regarding Shards Online, the upcoming sandbox MMORPG from Citadel. The news is that Citadel revealed some more stretch goals for the game's fundraising, but more importantly and more newsworthy is that Alpha 1 for the game has been delayed until spring. And this means the later full release has been pushed back as well, because between Alpha 1 and Early Access on Steam will at least be a few months in between them, so the game has definitely been pushed back a bit. I still think the game has potential, but we'll see what happens by the time it launches. Next up, some positive news from Heroes and Generals. The game broke 7 million players this week, and they average over 5,000 concurrent players regularly, and with that number increasing monthly. To celebrate this success, the developers are giving away 3 days of free veteran membership to anyone. Just redeem the code 7 and you'll get free 3 days of veteran membership in the game. Fun fact, this was actually the first Sunday Funday video we did here at MMOs.com, and it's actually an excellent game, so if you haven't played it yet and you like realistic shooters, give it a try. Up next, Final Fantasy XIV reveals the upcoming patch 3.2 trailer, The Gears of Change. They released a whole new trailer for the upcoming update, which launches on February 23rd, and it shows off some of the game's new content, namely the new dungeon, the Anti-Tower, and the new Beast Tribe quests. And even if you don't play Final Fantasy XIV, they do release really cool trailers. I mean, just search some of the older Final Fantasy XIV launch trailers, expansion trailers, they look really awesome. And again, patch 3.2 is launching on February 23rd. Up next, Atlas Reactor begins its sneak peek on February 18th, and that runs until the 24th. Atlas Reactor is Trion's newest game, and for those that haven't heard of Atlas Reactor, it looks like a weird mix between Dota and XCOM. They released a really cool trailer for the game as well. It's only like 45 seconds long, but do check it out. The next and last bit of news this week, guys, comes from an older game once again. Lucent Heart is also launching on Steam. And by launching on Steam, I mean it already launched on Steam. So yes, Suba Games is trying to bring back life to one of their older games once again. Lucent Heart is a unique mix of relationship building / dating along with MMORPG. Unfortunately, the game's player base is tiny, so based on that alone, I can't really recommend the game. There just aren't that many people playing the game, plus it's already super old and failed once already through being fun, and I guess Suba Games is hoping they can make the game better. But yeah, if you want to give it a try, it is free to play on Steam now. Anyway, guys, that's it for MMO News this week. Make sure to check us out tomorrow for the podcast, and I'll see you then. Later, guys. Oh man, shit's escalating pretty quickly in this trailer. It went from all this cutesy hugging stuff to just fighting. It's getting real, boys.